Hi everybody, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel, Hallmark Plus More, where we watch and talk about shows, movies, mysteries, Hallmark ornaments, and anything else that floats our boat. So today I'm going to be reviewing Elsbeth Season 2, Episode 15. So before I get into the review, I just want to say thank you to everybody who subscribes to my channel, likes my videos, leaves me comments. I appreciate you so much. I love the comments. So getting into this episode, it has a lot to do with a psychic named Marilyn, which is our guest star. So we kind of know the psychic's going to have something to do with it. And it starts out with a rich lady named Phyllis. She comes in to get a reading from Marilyn. And she's channeling her dead husband, George. Now, her dead husband, George, has a successful business called Butterwell. And you can kind of tell from the first scene, she's getting financial advice from Marilyn saying, I saw George. He was holding a briefcase. He was saying that it's time to let go. And, Phyllis is like, oh, so I need to sell? Like, that doesn't sound like something George would want to do. So right off the bat, you're like, okay, whether you believe in psychics or not, judge free zone. I don't judge. Everybody has their own opinion. But right off the bat from the first scene, you're like, okay, she obviously has an ulterior motive because she's telling him to sell her business, right? And, I'm sorry, telling her to sell her business. Her husband's passed. He has this company, and she, is conflicted on what to do. And Marilyn's like, your husband wants you to sell. And she's like, doesn't really sound like him, but she really believes Marilyn. Her stepson comes in and is like, has words with Marilyn, like, look, I know you're taking my stepmom's money. She's paid you a lot of money. My dad isn't going to sell. I'm taking over the business. I don't want you to come here anymore, and you can kind of tell like, okay, he's the one who's going to get killed. The psychic is going to kill him, because obviously she seems invested, right? Because she's not really channeling George. And again, I'm not saying whether you believe or not believe in psychics, but in this show, it's obviously you can tell she has an ulterior motive. So it's true. The stepson is the one who gets killed. He basically says like, hey, my dad wouldn't want to sell the company. And then Phyllis goes to the police station, is like, look, it's been 2 days. I don't know where my stepson is. He went out on some internet date and I haven't seen him in 2 days. So she's kind of wanting to file a missing persons report. And then the psychic comes into the police station and is like, is everything okay? And Phyllis is like, I want Marilyn to help find Tim. And the police department is like, well, we don't really work with psychics, but Phyllis is insisting. So they go to the park and she's like, I think he's here, and she's not really helping. But she took him to the park, which is where he last was seen on his internet date. And Elsbeth sees the crows. And, I'm sure most of you know, if you don't know, crows, they go around dead bodies. If you ever go anywhere and you see a lot of crows up in the air, it's usually because there's a dead carcass or an animal or a person. So when I saw that, I was like, yep, that's where he is. So he was killed with the bow and arrow. So he was lured out. We later find out he was catfished because it was a fake account, which you kind of assume, right? Some internet date wanted to meet him in a obscure part of the park, and then he gets shot with the bow and arrow, and you see him being dragged into the woods in the park. So, yeah, like I say, you later find out it's a fake account, but you don't know who made the fake account. So obviously the psychic is suspicious, but because like I say, you see that encounter early on. But she has an alibi. She says she was doing a psychic reading over the phone. And her Marilyn's assistant, alibis her out. She's been working with her for a long time. And Kayla gets promoted, which we kind of talked about in the last episode. So, yay, Kayla, you totally deserve it. So, she's a detective now. So, she's like on the scene of the crime, taking detailed notes. Ask the captain, who's the detective. I got detailed notes. And he's like, you are, you've been promoted. She gets her badge. But that means that Elsbeth needs a new beat cop. So, they have a couple leads. So, Kayla's like, I'm going to go here. And Elsbeth wants to go to the psychic. So she gets somebody to go with her, which is another beat cop, Officer Nikki Reynolds. And she's very nice. I like her. I just don't think she's as open to Elsbeth as Kayla was, right? You later find that they got a connection with the dog. She likes dogs, and so Elsbeth was able to kind of connect with her there. But at first, when Elsbeth was asking her questions, like personal questions, just kind of to have a conversation. She wasn't prying. She was just kind of like, just to kind of talk and kind of she was like, aren't you with the police decree? So I think at first Nikki was like, I don't really want to be telling you my personal information. Are you investigating me? Does this have to do with the police decree? So I think she was a little like standoffish because she didn't really know how everything worked. And I agree with her 100%. If I know Elsbeth is with the decree and that's what she's supposed to be doing is policing the police, I wouldn't really want to open up to her either. So I don't really blame Nikki at first either. I'd kind of be the same way. But Elsa was like, no, 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 it doesn't have anything to do with the decree. I'm just trying to make conversation, just so that there's not silence, basically. And Elspeth is one of the sweetest people, I think, ever in the characters of people. She's just so tender-hearted. So she really wants to open up and kind of have a friendship with Nikki. So like I say, at the end, when she sees Elsbeth's dog, they kind of talk. She likes dogs. She's trying to get into the canine unit, but her apartment complex doesn't allow dogs, so she kind of bonded over Elsbeth's dog. So I like that at the end. You kind of throughout the whole episode, Elsbeth is trying to kind of get her to open up and she's a little hesitant. And like I say, not like in a mean way. I think she just doesn't know, and she even says that, like, I like to keep my personal life separate than my job. And I think that's common. I think most people are like that until they open up. You don't start your first day at the job telling everybody your business. You have to get to know your coworkers and then you start sharing about your family and your personal life. So I just think Elsbeth was wanting her to open up like right away, and that's not typical, I think, for regular people, in my opinion. Again, my opinion, judgment free zone. So I really don't blame Nikki. I don't think she was being mean or closed off. I just think, she's with, are you policing me for the decree? Like, I don't want my personal business out there. So I like that she kind of opened up at the end and they kind of had a connection with the dog, because I like her character. I think she's going to be really nice and help Elsbeth. So how long she's going to be with Elsbeth, I don't know. I feel like her saying she was trying to get in the canine unit is going to be Nikki's way of exiting the show whenever, they want to change it up a little bit. So I saw that they kind of, put that seed in there that if they want to change characters, they will. But I liked her. I thought, once she was able to open up, she was really nice. So there is the new person. I mentioned it in my last episode with Elsbeth that we were probably going to see somebody new, and we did. So what was interesting about this case was the other lead that Kayla was going on was there is a group out there, and I don't know if I wrote it down, but I definitely thought it was interesting. They shoot rats with bows and arrows. So they want to control the rat population, but they don't want to like be cruel and shoot them or, trap them. So they use these dull blade arrows. So even though he was killed with the bow and arrow, it wasn't the same arrow that this group uses. It, I wish I wrote it down. I don't like it hunts rat society. I don't think I wrote down the actual name of it, but it was just odd. I mean, it was a full-on society. They had their own shirts with their little, logo, and they actually have footage, like camera footage in the park, so that they can kind of see the activity and see where the rats are. And they literally have a group and they hunt down rats with bows and arrows. So, I mean, I don't like rodents. I don't like rats. I don't like bugs. I don't like spiders. And again, judgment free zone. I know people have them as pets. I don't like snakes. I'm not a big critters person. So when I'm hearing this, I'm like, ugh, I'm like shivering. Like you go out at night on purpose to trap rats and kill them with bows and arrows at night. Like you're literally going somewhere where you know there's a lot of rats on purpose. So that kind of was creepy to me. I guess it's good they're doing it in a humane way. I'm not saying that you need to go out and shoot rats. I'm not saying that, but it was just kind of creepy for me to kind of hear more about this society. Whether it's fake for the show or whether this is something that happens in real life, I don't know. And like I said, a judge free zone, I don't judge you at all. To each his own. I applaud you for doing something in a humane way to control the rat population. But it just creeps me out because I don't like rodents. But anyways, like I said, it turns out it wasn't their arrow. They used dull arrows and it wasn't the same brand or anything. So we're like, okay, we got to find something else. Kayla finds out and gets DNA from Marilyn the psychic because she's thinking there's something more to her, right? And the DNA actually pulled up the assistant that she had a record in Pennsylvania of stealing. So her name is Reagan, and they actually found out that she had a record for stealing things. And back in Pennsylvania, and they're like, well, how did you start working for Marilyn? And she's like, Marilyn babysat me when I was a kid in Pennsylvania. So they're like, okay, so she's not really from Europe or wherever she said she was from, and this accent, which by the way was what Kayla thought. When she heard the accent, she knew there was something off, and that's why she did the DNA. So Kayla's hunch kind of got her on the track of Reagan. So once they interviewed Reagan, like, look, we know you have a record of stealing things. That's when they found out Maryland, was from Pennsylvania, and they found out her real name was Gunderson, and they were able to track the arrow back to a store in Pennsylvania, but they didn't recognize Marilyn's name because she changed it. So they actually were able to track it down to Maryland. She actually won an award for her aim on bow and arrows, and they were able to track it down to her. So they were actually able to find out her alibi was the assistant. She has phone readings for new clients. So she doesn't have any alibi at all. We found out she's really from Pennsylvania. She's got, she knows how to shoot a bow and arrow. We have proof of it. And she has no alibi. So we're like, okay, we kind of knew it was her, but now it's all coming together. And why did she want him to sell though, right? So she has to have some kind of investment or some kind of motive to want to get Phyllis to vote on selling her company. So the name of it, Butterwell, is a competition for Snackerdoodle, and they're kind of rivals in the snack food industry. And her husband died as well, so they said it's like a widow's battle, right? Phyllis is the wife of George, who passed, for Butterwell, and then Miss Finch, her husband died, and she is the widow of Snackerdoodle. And so it turns out the psychic has invested in Snackerdoodle, and so she would obviously get paid out a lot if Butterwell sold to them. So she obviously had an interior motive, which is money based, and that's kind of what she needed, but they wanted to kind of trap her and get her to confess or kind of show that she's a fraud. So Phyllis actually, even though she gave this woman so much money and believed she was channeling her dead husband George, actually, agreed, or Elsbeth was able to get them on board to kind of trick her and saying there was this family member she could try to talk to, and it was fake. It was make believe. It was actually the person, they were able to kind of show that she was a fake because she was trying to channel a person that wasn't in the family, but it was also that linked her to the catfished account that was luring Tim into the woods. So it was kind of a, two birds with one stone. They were able to like get both things kind of bookended on why she did it. She just proved that she knew of this fake relative because Tim spoke about it to lure women into this dating app, and she knew it because she created the fake account. So it definitely worked out well in the end. Now, a couple things that I didn't mention was when the psychic came to the police station, she came up to Captain Wagner and said, something about a blue station wagon. And he was kind of rattled and was like, no, and turned around and left. But you're like, he was lying. So how did this psychic know to say that to him? It was about an old case. And when you talk to most cops or detectives, they have an old case that they feel guilt about, or a cold case that's not solved. So it was kind of like that for Captain Wagner. So when they got Marilyn, to confess and say, we know you did it, Captain Wagner went into the interview room and was like, how'd you know about the blue station wagon? So, I mean, it's like they caught her in a lie. She was trying to channel dead George, Phyllis's husband, for her own motive, gain, greed, money, and then made up the dead relative that she was trying to channel who didn't exist. So they kind of caught her in a lie as being fake as a psychic. But then at the end of the show, they kind of make it sound like she does have some capabilities because Captain Wagner is asking her, how did you know to ask me about my old case? And I was like, okay, so what is the show doing? Like, you're showing that the psychic is fake, but you're also saying that Captain Wagner is saying she does have some capabilities. And then at the end, then she tells them, she says, and Elsbeth is in danger. She's in danger. I see blood. I see water. I see a lot of blood. Dead silence. And you're like, wait, what? What does this mean? Like, and then that's the end. And there's no preview for next week. Now, there wasn't a preview for Madlock either. And I feel like Madlock comes on and then Elsbeth, they're literally right after each other, both on CBS. So usually when there's a new Madlock, there's a new Elsbeth, right? They usually have new episodes on the same night. So I'm thinking, okay, no new Madlock next week, no new Elsbeth. But you kind of left us on a cliffhanger, right? The show shows that she's a fake, but at the end, you're basically saying maybe she's not a fake because Captain Wagner believes she knows something about his old case, and now she's tripping out, like she's like screaming, she's in danger. Elsbeth is in danger. So you see Elsbeth on the other side of the glass going like, what? Why am I in danger? And then it just like cuts out. And again, no preview. So it leaves you kind of like a cliffhanger. Is she going to be in the next Elsbeth episode, or are they kind of going to talk about it at the beginning of the next Elsbeth episode? Are they going to talk about what this psychic said, or is something bad going to happen to Elsbeth? I mean, there's just so many questions on like, what does that mean? Why is there no preview? What am I left to guess and think about? Again, my channel is a judge-free zone. I can't say that enough. These are just my opinions. I always am open to everybody's opinions and theories and remarks. I always say judgment-free. Keep it positive. No negative, hateful remarks. Personally, myself, I don't believe in psychics. I think they do their research, and I think that's what happened in most of this case, or they have ulterior motives. However, I don't think that some people really do believe that they can channel the dead and help people. I just think there's a lot of people that are misguided. And like in this case, Phyllis was giving her a lot of money and she really was just out for her own motives, and that was money. She was investing in the competitor and wanted her to cave. So she could get even more money. So I personally don't believe them. However, I do believe in angels. I believe in Jesus. I believe in God. I believe in angels. I believe in the devil. So, I mean, everybody believes in their own. To each his own, whatever works for you. I don't want anybody to get scammed. If you believe in psychics, please don't send a ton of money like this woman did. She spent so much money. I think if you do it and it makes your life better and you're happy, that's all that matters. So, how I feel about it doesn't affect anybody else. If you're happy and you're living your life, just be careful. I don't want you to get scammed, not necessarily by psychics, but by anybody. Just be very careful and cautious because we work hard for our money and we don't want anybody to take it unrightfully. So I hope you enjoyed my review. I'm very much looking forward to the next episode on what that means, especially since she was a guest, because they have all these guest stars. So maybe they're going to come back because she played a great role in this. Marilyn was great. So as always, a great episode. So until next week or the week after our next episode, I will see you then. Bye.